according to the World Bank, if we try to create skill in any handicap and give them job opportunities and employment, it can change the economic condition of our country. I have been associated with employment of special friends since last 30 years. When the NABIT India started in 2009, my main focus was on employment. And I knew that if given the opportunity to these people through our training, they will become a normal people. Till the present date, we have trained 1,500 people. Mainly they are from the poor background. We give them boarding, we give them lodging. We also provide them with other things which is required to them. The journey was not an easy journey because these people didn't believe in themselves. So we did a lot of research from the corporates in understanding that what type of jobs these people can be given, can be done, and we started mapping up that this was a requirement of the corporate and this is something which these people could deliver. So we started here a research center which no other NGO was doing. It was only at our center at NABIT India in Manesar that they believed that if I take the training here, our life will change. कॉल कीजिए जैसा आपको कंप्यूटर बोलेंगे ना 5 दबाने के लिए. Training is normally done for 2 months where they come very raw. Then after they have finished the training, we will be doing the hand holding and giving them little stipend also. It gave NABIT India a pride moment when we started getting a lot of work for them from the industry. They started believing them and giving them internships. Under the Social Impact Incubator Program, NABIT India and Pernod will try to bring change in the mindset of the society to understand that they are not disabled but they are the contributing member of the society. NABIT India wants to say, believe in them, don't give them sympathy. Try to give them an opportunity. And opportunity which can be availed by able body can also be given to them and they can become the contributing member for the society and it can change the economic condition of our country.
Everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Arjun Mishra. I'm the co-founder of NABIT India, and I have the proud privilege of having Mr. Vishal Pujjar, who heads accessibility for Atos India, joining us today. And we have this very important discussion around web accessibility and its importance, especially from a business standpoint, and how it's very important, primarily for the Indian context. Vishal, thank you so much for joining us today, and it's such a pleasure welcoming you. Before we start the discussion today, Vishal, would be very grateful if you could speak about your journey in the field of accessibility and more about you and your journey in making the world and especially for our differently able individuals a better place. Would look forward to hear you.
Sure. Many thanks, Arjun and NABIT India for this opportunity to kind of express my thoughts here. Hello, everyone. I am Vishal Pujar. I am head of accessibility for GDC Atos India. And basically, in this domain for around more than 15 years now. And maybe 10 years, 12 years back, when I started this journey, I was just put onto a project. And then I was just put onto project saying that, okay, oh, we need to do this accessibility for some big banks. And when I kind of started doing it, I was very new to this domain and space where we started understanding and I realized the pain that disabled users are going through it. And then I realized that yes, this is one of the area where we kind of have to move in and start supporting. And we started looking at this as in special skills, where I kind of started my journey 12, 13 years back.
Okay.
uh, that's how kind of I started my journey actually.
Hmm. Great.
And yeah,
Yeah. Good.
go ahead
Sorry,
please.
please go ahead, Vishal. Yeah.
Sure. So that's where I kind of started my journey. And then talking about accessibility, currently I'm heading the ATOS GDC India responsibilities, and within the capabilities, I'm kind of building up the capacity and capabilities across India GDC to ensure that we kind of able to support the customers and deliver to the customers whatever is required from accessibility standpoint. So apart from that, I keep on writing some blogs on LinkedIn. I kept kind of reading the accessibility space, and then basically I realized that I keep on learning daily some new things in accessibility. This is a very vast domain that every day I keep on learning new things. So that's about me, and happy to be here and be part of this discussion.
Thank you, Vishal, for the elaborate introduction. And yes, it was your blogs which attracted, me so much that I was like, I need to have him on the program. I need to have him with his vast knowledge speak about, accessibility and such an important subject that the more we speak, the lesser it is, given the humongous task ahead and given the huge, differently abled workforce who unfortunately are not finding representation. And a big contributor to that is the lack of a digital accessible workplace, which leads me to the next question, Vishal. Uh, what is, according to you, the need for web accessibility in today's time? And as a business owner, why should one care for it? Your thoughts to it, please.
Sure. Yeah. Obviously, I mean, this is not one single reason. There are multiple factors to it, and out of which one can be the future proofing part, where basically now technology is evolving and more people they are relying on the digital platforms for various
Yeah.
activities. Ensuring accessibility from the start future proofs your content and saves time and efforts
Mhm.
in kind of retrofitting it in the later stages. Apart
Yeah.
from that, it's an user improved user experience basically, because web accessibility just not benefits a small set of group of users, but just to those with disabilities. Accessibility websites or accessible websites often have better navigation, they have clearer content structure and consistent layouts, resulting into enhanced user experience for everyone.
Mhm.
Along with
Yeah.
this, it's just not improved user experience, you have inclusion and equalness of access, because web accessibility ensures that people with disabilities, including those visual impairments, hearing impairments, or motor or cognitive impairments, can access and interact with the digital content on equal biases with others.
Okay.
It also promotes inclusivity and removes the barriers that might otherwise prevent a certain individuals from using the benefiting from websites and applications. Obviously, reputation and brand image is one of the important factor, because emphasizing on web accessibility contributes to a positive brand image. Organizations that prioritize inclusivity and accessibility are viewed more favorable by
Okay.
customers, stakeholders, and partners. And obviously, the last one, which I can think about, is legal and ethical obligations.
Of
There are
course.
many countries, they have their rules and regulations, laws that requires web accessibility or web content more and more accessible to people with disabilities. And complying with the accessibility standards not only help the organizations to avoid legal repercussions, but also
Mhm.
demonstrate a commitment to ethical practices and social responsibility, is what I think. So that's these are the important factors where basically why we think there is a need of accessibility, and why actually everyone should care about it.
No, so well put, Vishal. Thank you so much for sharing the thoughts. Assuming there is some audience who would be hearing this podcast as we have it live, and I'm a business owner. Say I'm a website. I run an e-commerce company. I run a digital content first organization, and I'm convinced. Help me chart the trajectory. What are the standards of web accessibility, and is there some international standards which can be set as a benchmark? And what is its adoption, or is there some parallel in the Indian context on standards? If you can help me understand around this.
Sure. So ideally, if we look from the web accessibility standards perspective, we have Web Content Accessibility Guidelines (WCAG),
Okay.
developed by Web Accessibility Initiative, that is WAI, and Worldwide Web Consortium, W3C. And WCAG outlines a set of guidelines and success criteria that
Okay.
aims to make web content more accessible to people with disabilities.
Okay.
The current version is basically WCAG 2.1, includes the guidelines for addressing wide range of disabilities, including visual impairments, hearing, motor, and cognitive impairments. So this is one of the widely recognized and adopted guidelines as the benchmark of web accessibility worldwide.
Okay.
Many countries and organizations reference to WCAG guidelines when it comes to accessibility laws, policies, and guidelines, making it the de facto of global standards and creating an inclusive digital content. In context to India, what I can say is yes, India is also having rules and regulations, laws, which says that RPWD Act 2016. And if you go and look into the RPWD 16 Act, it says that all the websites, government websites, private organization websites should be accessibility compliant with the standards of WCAG 2.0 level AA compliant. That's what the RPWD Act says. Having said that, it's also required that we should be accessibility compliant from the websites and application standpoint from India perspective as well.
Okay. Okay. So very interesting. Vishal, a next question which I had for you, and if you could um, let's talk in terms of very business terms, and if I speak from a business owner's perspective, um, while ESG is important for us and we all strive for it, maybe small business owners and who will be a part of this audience, may that be somebody who's running a again, if he concentrates on improvement of his site map or improvement on his web accessibility standards.
Yeah, basically, when you think about as a business owner, how do you stand again beyond the compliance part? Obviously, accessibility websites are typically more user friendly, is what I can say. They are more navigable
Okay.
and intuitive, kind of leading to higher
Mm-hmm.
customer satisfactions and loyalty. Because
Mm-hmm.
when web accessibility enhances the user experience for all visitors and just not with specifically to those with disabilities. So because there
Okay.
are kind of
Okay.
people who are growing into their older ages, I'll be growing into my older age
Mm-hmm.
after 40s, 50s, 60s. I at some point in time I will start gaining some or maybe acquiring some or the other disabilities, either for a cataract or
I
maybe
understand.
the weakness. Yeah. So in that way, it's just not specifically for the disabled users, but it is for different age groups, and demonstrating a commitment to inclusivity and accessibility can positively impact your brand image.
Mm-hmm.
It reflects
Absolutely.
your organization values actually by showing the social responsibility and dedication to
Hmm.
provide equalness of opportunity for users. And overall, what I can say
Absolutely.
is web
Hmm.
accessibility is just not a legal requirement. It's a strategic investment, I think,
Hmm.
from the business owner standpoint that can lead to more inclusive, customer centric, and successful online presence. And really, if really the organizations
So
don't
the
know
yeah.
from where to start, you can kind of get the maturity
Hmm.
assessment done for the organization, and that's can what we can help you out.
Okay. So it's a case of, are you excluding your clients? Maybe those who may, with age, progressively be having reduction of vision. Do we see that as one of the major contributors, and how it should be seen? Accessibility should not be just seen from the lens of inclusion of people with low vision or with disabilities. It's also about a huge customer segment who unfortunately may not be potentially with you, might be going over to your competition. And the reason for that is perhaps you're not concentrating on a very important segment of ensuring that your business is accessible. So, absolutely resonate that thought, Vishal. Thank you for pronouncing it so well. Uh, Now, you have such immense experience in accessibility. Uh, Typically, what are the major hesitations or what are the frictions which prevent that you have experienced in the past which prevent business owners to walk this path? Why don't more businesses join the bandwagon? What's your thoughts to that?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, I mean, very good question. So to understand this, we can kind of tie this up to multiple threads and understand one of the important aspect is, if you think from the India perspective, obviously the lack of awareness. Been in this journey for
Okay.
so many years, I realized that when we try and kind of start raising the accessibility issues, many of the web designers and developers, they are not fully aware of accessibility guidelines, and that
Okay.
impacts the design on the users with disabilities. So this lack of awareness is just not for the developers, designers,
Okay.
but in many areas there's still a lack of awareness. Though there are different events that are celebrated throughout the year. For example, there is a GAD event, which is Global
Hmm.
Accessibility Awareness Day. We have the Innovations with Disability Day in the month of December, 3rd December. So there are a lot of events that still happen, which has increased
Hmm.
the awareness though, but still
Okay.
there is lack of awareness is which what I feel. The
Hmm.
second aspect which I can chart out is the perceived complexity. Maybe from designers believe that they are implementing accessibility features and it will be very complex for them. It will be very
Okay.
time consuming, or sometimes
Hmm.
they feel some hesitations in incorporating only small minority, which isn't true
Hmm.
actually, because as I kind of quoted some of the examples at the start, it's just
True.
not for the small minority, but it covers a lot of user groups. It benefits a wide variety of people. The second aspect of myths and misconception is accessibility is a short-term project. Obviously, people feel that okay, we implemented this and now we are done. But this is not. When you make changes to your application, when you are into your maintenance phases, obviously there needs to be an accessibility check done, so that
Okay.
accessibility is just not a project, short-term project. It is an ongoing design requirement.
Okay.
Another myth may be accessibility should be a last step at the production phases or maybe at the UAT phases, but no, obviously it's an ongoing requirement, and we need to kind of
Hmm.
start implementing accessibility at the initial stages. It's the first thought and not the last thought, because if your
Okay.
designs are not accessibility compliant, obviously developers or the engineers will kind of develop accordingly and will end up
Hmm.
in kind of having higher number of issues in your accessibility web pages.
Okay.
So designing
Okay.
for accessibility is much easier actually than retrofitting it into the last stages, because obviously when you start retrofitting
Okay.
it, you will break something in functionality. When you fix some functionality, you will start breaking some accessibility of it, which will increase the
Right.
cost, increase the budget of your projects. And that's why a
Okay.
lot of people feel that accessibility is very hard and expensive, but actually not. When you kind of compare the cost of alternatives, as an example, if you kind of get into a lawsuit, to address the
Right.
lawsuit will be very kind of costly, in kind
Absolutely.
of comparison with building the accessibility at the start. And it is not ugly accessibility. A lot of people think, oh, we need to implement alternate text, we need to implement link text, there are a lot of things that needs to be done, and my website or web page will
Hmm.
become ugly. But actually websites
True.
can be stunningly beautiful, is what I can say, because a lot of things are hidden in the background in the HTML part of
Hmm.
it, so that it is not kind of showcased on the design front. It is only specific to some users who are normally using screen readers, where we are kind of putting in the right alternate text, we are putting in the right page title. It's very important, so that it is accessible to different types of disabilities who are using assistive technologies like screen readers or
Okay.
speech to text kind of technologies. Accessibility
Okay.
testing would be an integrated into entire web development lifecycle, I can say, from initial planning stages to post launch and
Hmm.
maintenance. It is very
Okay.
essential, I think, to consider accessibility at every step of the process, to address potential issues
Okay.
maybe at early stages and avoid costs at retrofitting it in the later stages. Nowadays, we also have agile ways of working. Earlier it was like a waterfall kind of framework.
Mhm.
Even in the agile ways of working, you can inject accessibility experts, SMEs, into the sprints life cycle. Ensure
Okay.
that your sprints are getting accessibility compliant. Ultimately, at the end of UAT phases or production phases, you will have to invest very less time to see just the integration or the journey
Mhm.
part of it, and then you have your accessibility kind of phase completed, and the next journey kind of gets started. That's how we can plan, is what I
Got
think
it.
is.
Okay, so Vishal, one important question which I had. Uh, there is one set for those who are just coming up with their websites or their content. What if there's a legacy business? Let's say there is the likes of any e-commerce giant, may that be Amazon, may that be Flipkart, etc. Can they also ensure accessibility given that the product is already delivered? And if yes, what frequency typically should a business recheck on their accessibility so that the end users are not affected and they can remain the top of the game in terms of access to all?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you rightly quoted some of the big giants, e-commerce. If you see, in comparison to India, there are stringent rules and regulations across different countries. And when we kind of go back
Mm-hmm.
and see the lawsuits, the ADA lawsuits, Accessibility Act lawsuits across the part of US and Europe, the highest lawsuits are being filed on e-commerce kind of websites.
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, e-commerce websites can be made accessible. It's just not that
Mm-hmm.
this cannot be made accessible. The images that are coming up on the websites, the links that are coming up on the website, the consistency part, the error identification, the error suggestion part can be made so easy, even for
Mm-hmm.
the cognitive disabilities. We can say that the text what is written should be more simple, the grammatical English, which will be understood by cognitive disabled users as well. So there is a lot of chance, lot of scope. Obviously, this can be made accessible. It's just not a web page, but any kind of website and applications that are available in the
Mm-hmm.
market, they need to be accessible, and it is a journey. What I can say.
I absolutely. And with the guidance and the proper guidance of experts like you, we promise to make the journey as sweet and as beautiful as the businesses would want. Just continuing from there, Vishal, help me with this. Um, there is so much talks of AI and machine learning and automation setting in into the IT sector. Uh, in the specific sphere of accessibility, do you see machines taking over the roles of humans? Do you see the future wherein there can be a lot of automation built into accessibility where we perhaps don't need humans? We can, just have machines taking over, they delivering wherever it's found wanting in terms of accessibility, and then the development team takes over. So, what's your thoughts on automation and will it impact the accessibility space?
Sure. Yeah, obviously. So when we think about automation, uh, obviously, while automation can assist in some aspect of web accessibility testing and evaluation, but
Mm-hmm.
it cannot entirely replace the human intelligence part.
Okay.
There are a lot of people who ask me this
Okay.
question, that how, what do you think about automation versus the human part? And I can say that I can just quote an
Mm.
example. For example, there
Right.
is a HTML page and there is a page title to it. So page
Mm-hmm.
title is read by the screen reader to the vision impaired users or any users who are using the assistive technology. Automation
Right.
tool can go and find out that page title is present or not, because it will crawl through the HTML. But if that page title is making sense
Okay.
to user or not will be only verified by
Mm.
human intelligence. Human
Makes sense.
expertise
Makes
are
perfect sense.
essential for understanding the context. Human intelligence is important for subjective user experiences and complex interactions that automated tools may miss out on that. So potential
Okay.
pitfalls when we say relying solely on automation includes false positive or false negative in
Mm.
identifying some of the issues, overlooking subjective user experiences faced or barriers faced by users, and inadequate evaluation
Right.
of dynamic content and user interactions.
Hmm.
But combining automated
Yeah.
testing and human evaluation ensures more comprehensive and accurate assessment of web accessibility. I can say it will help to speed up
Okay.
maybe by 15-20% of your efforts. But to be
Hmm.
honest, it is not replaceable by human intelligence.
Okay. So if I may summarize, it's that the jobs aren't going anywhere. We will still need, the human aspect to it. Machines can expedite things, but they can't replace the capabilities of humans. That's where we come into. Which leads me to the next question, Vishal. Uh, and I ask this from your rightful position of, being a veteran in the space of accessibility. I ask you this, help me understand what is the present scenario of talent development, and how good is the funnel of new talents joining the space of accessibility, let's say specific to India, and what are of some of the viewers maybe, accessibility experts or budding accessibility experts who may be joining the space or maybe hearing this podcast. My question to you is, um, what is their career prospects that they can look into, say in the future, and what is
Yeah,
the scope for the present talent in terms of what they can look to?
sure. I always say that this is a special skill and niche skill.
Okay.
As an accessibility specialist, there's a lot of talent that has been now started getting attracted towards the accessibility kind of space. It was earlier
Okay.
the lack of awareness. The awareness has been started growing, and people now have started understanding the pain that disabled users are going through it, and then hence all the organizations are also kind of taking a stance where they would want to kind of ensure their HR policies are accessibility compliant, their websites are accessibility compliant, their hiring processes are accessibility compliant, so that any disabled individual can go and
Mm-hmm.
apply for the respective job positions. There are quite a few different positions that are kind of getting developed in accessibility space, like accessibility specialist, web accessibility specialist, or maybe inclusive design consultant, accessibility analyst,
Hmm.
trainer, assistive technology developer, user experience tester. These are some set of the broad spectrum of accessibility, where there are quite a few jobs. There are companies who want to hire human intelligence as part of user experience,
Okay.
because it cannot be any tool, it cannot be any other human replaceable in comparison to user experience, because the disabled user will only be able to give a right user experience to you, saying
Hmm.
that if this is working for me or this is not working for me. Obviously the functionality might be correct, but if it is not working for any specific individual, that means you are kind of neglecting that specific user group from using
Okay.
your functionality. And that's where I think that yes, it is kind of getting developed, a lot of jobs kind of available. It's only need of the companies and organizations to be compliant with the policies, standards, and infrastructure that can accommodate the individuals from the job perspective, where we want to kind of bring up a lot of job opportunities for disabled employees or disabled associates.
Okay. Um, and I native tester or a person with disability themselves testing an application or testing a content is better than perhaps having a person without disability testing, and that's the uniqueness which our organization offers. uh, Not only limiting to the social aspect of more inclusion, but also about the fact that when there is a native tester, the comprehensiveness of the testing, the scope, and then the endorsement that the end product is matched when a person with disability himself has given his yay or a nay on a certain aspect of accessibility is surpassed to none. And I think that's where it's where NABIT through its accessibility labs gets into recognition and gets into reckoning. Uh, Also, help me with this, Vishal, that in terms of people, and I ask this question specifically for now from the community who I work for, a person with visual impairment. What is the career path that he should tread say post graduation, if he wants to see a future in the space of accessibility, I know about the certifications, but how soon or how relevant or how important are those from finding a job? If you could throw some light to that.
Sure. Certifications are important to get the exposure, what is happening at the international level. There are quite a few organizations like IAAP who provide
Mhm.
different certificates like certified programs for accessibility core competencies, then web accessibility specialists, document accessibility kind of certifications they provide. Obviously, when you go into market, you want to stand out from a crowd, you want to get onto the jobs. The
Right.
certifications are important because they will obviously give you a wider exposure, wider
Mhm.
confidence and expertise to kind of stand out from whole group. uh,
Okay.
while certification is important, it is also important that you just don't kind of rely on the user experience part, but people can start learning how to do the audits of application, how to create the vpat kind of reports, because these are the reports that are mandatory required in some of the countries like us.
Hmm.
Then creating the reports and just not kind of sitting back and understanding the accessibility testing aspect of it. I have been working with individuals closely, blind individuals who were able to kind
Okay.
of develop the programs in Java.
Okay.
And
Wow.
there's a career path, obviously, where you
Hmm.
can become accessibility specialist or maybe assistive technology developer. Also, there are kind of shared service desk kind of opportunities where
Hmm.
people can support some of the opportunities, even they have some or the other form of disabilities. So this is what I think. They shouldn't stop, keep on learning. uh, Normally, I've seen individuals with disabilities, they will not be mostly on the LinkedIn or other social media
Hmm.
platforms.
Very true.
Obviously, getting onto these platforms, getting onto the right connections where they want to
Very true.
pursue their future jobs is also an important aspect. This helps because a lot of recruiters, a lot of hiring managers, they are on LinkedIn, they are looking out for a talent, and the talent is here. So that's how we need to kind of move on hand in hand to kind of stand out and get through the job opportunities in the market, even in the India context as well.
No, absolutely right. I think that's one aspect which you highlighted in the last part, around how people are not very vocal about their capabilities. And perhaps that's the missing link, which, if improved, can lead to realizations of a better future. And that's something which we also speak a lot about when I speak to the beneficiaries, or the organization speaks about. It's so much to know something, but then there's a different aspect to it of also, making others and making the larger world understand that this is where we are capable, and entrust us with this responsibility. A trend for the future in the space of accessibility which you see is up to stay. Vishal, what are your thoughts in the upcoming trends which could have a lasting impression, say, for the next 5, 7 odd years?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is a fantastic question actually. To answer those, there's a lot of different trends upcoming in the market from the accessibility standpoint. As you already know, the technology is advancing, the awareness of web accessibility is growing. Several trends are expected actually to shape in the future of web accessibility down the line 6, 7, 8 years, enhancing the digital experience for the people with disabilities. Some of the
Hmm.
trends like AI driven accessibility. Nowadays we see the chat gpt, artificial intelligence and machine learning kind of technologies will play important significant role in
Hmm.
automating the accessibility evaluations, identifying issues or providing real time assistance to users with disabilities. This can also
Hmm.
help in accuracy and efficiency of accessibility testing, making it easier for developers to fix the issues in early kind of stages of the product development life cycle.
Okay.
Apart from that, there are some other aspects like voice interfaces or voice user interfaces will also become more sophisticated, allowing people with motor impairments or visual impairments
Okay.
to interact with websites using voice commands. There are
Okay.
assistive technologies, tools available like Dragon Natural Speaking, where you can kind of give the commands from your mic or speaker from the headphone mic, and
Hmm.
then it will start taking actions on your screen.
Okay.
Mobile accessibility is another important aspect. There's a lot of usage of smart devices, mobile devices, and the focus now on mobile accessibility will grow. Developers will have to ensure that the apps they are developing, the native apps, the hybrid apps, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe mobile web applications, they are more and more accessible across various devices and screen sizes. Because after every 3 months, there is a different OS getting upgraded, the different sizes, new devices coming into the market, which will anyways benefit the users with disabilities who will rely only on mobile kind of technology. Wearable
Absolutely.
devices or wearable technology is another important thing. There are a lot of smart devices, wearable like smart watches, which will gain popularity, and developers will need to consider accessibility actually for these devices,
Mm.
ensuring that the wearable technology is also accessible, which will empower the users with
Right.
disabilities to benefit from their features. Virtual reality, augmented reality is also another aspect, and then IoT accessibility, Internet of Things, the smart things.
Mm.
I kind of start my washing machine on the smartphone. I start my dishwasher on the smartphone, and
Yeah.
even I have a robot used for cleaning the floor, mopping. It's also kind of getting started using my smartphone. That way, I
Wonderful.
mean, a lot of crucial things, IoT devices and interfaces, which will be crucial. And this includes the accessible smart home technologies and healthcare devices on the IoT platforms. So these are some of the upcoming trends which I feel will kind of take over in upcoming 6 to 7 years, and where there is need of developers, accessibility evaluation, user experience experts to ensure that the all kind of users, disabled users, or all different groups of users should be able to use these kind of applications.
Great. That was much as I would want to have you for a longer time, but I understand the constraints. And
Yeah,
it's such an enriching talk. And I go back with a lot of information and a lot of insights on accessibility, and so do the viewers who have joined us today. And thank you so much, Vishal, for all the varied subjects around accessibility. Right, we spoke about from the trends of the future, the talent development around the space, the need, which is the starting point, and why should business owners look beyond accessibility as from an ESG standpoint, and look at more from a business lost and competitor gained scope. Such an enriching experience listening to you, Vishal, and I hope we can have the opportunity to reconvene again and delve more into the rich knowledge and experience that you carry in this space. Such a pleasure having you at the show today. Thank you, Vishal, for all your insights in the time today.
sure. Many thanks again, Arjun and Team Nabet, for having this conversation. This was an important conversation from India context, where we kind of have a very huge population. Even we consider 2.68% of the population of India has some or the other form of disabilities. Quite a few websites and application should be made much more accessible for this biggest group. Even as compared to other countries, basically, even we have different types of disabilities. So India recognizes 21 kind of disabilities, but the other
Hmm.
countries normally they recognize and realize 80 different types of disabilities in their countries. So having said that, we shouldn't be kind of less attentive to humanity. We should
Hmm.
prioritize the accessibility and accountability towards ensuring that whatever we develop is accessibility compliant. uh, and there are many kind of reasons that we can speak about, but it was really nice kind of interacting this, sharing my thoughts. And then I say every time that again this is something new learning for me. Every day I come in here, I speak to someone, I talk to someone, I learn something new. I appreciate all the efforts from NABET India to kind of give the job opportunities or bring up the talent to the market, ensure they are job ready.
Right.
I appreciate all the efforts that you are taking in. And obviously, as you said, whenever there is a scope again, we would reconnect and try and support each other, where we want to take and support the disabled users and disabled community to the next level. Many thanks again for today. And
Thank you so
thanks to
much.
all of the viewers, and have a nice day, a nice evening hereafter. Thank you. Cheers and bye
Thank you
for
so
now.
much. Bye, Vishal. Take care.